And as I've just said, welcome to the final FuturePrint webinar of the year. As you know, we have a platform that is committed to content on lots of different formats. FuturePrint really was born out of COVID-19, so we've got a real commitment to sharing great content digital. And the clue is in the title, really. It's about the future of print and technology being one of the, if not the enabler for new possibilities, new opportunities, and so on. So I'm really, really happy to have with me today Bobby Edmundovich, who is the CRO and General Manager for Gelato. And I think Gelato, in many ways this year, you kind of stole the headlines away from some of the hardware guys, right? And I know, Bobby, we'll find out more about you because you came, from outside the print industry. So that's in itself interesting, because I kind of think when you're not weighed down with the same kind of traditions and ways or paradigms, or might call culture or whatever, you can kind of just change the rules. And I think that's one of the things you guys have done. So we'll find out more about that. And of course, the headline question is, will 2025 be a breakthrough year for software and print? And really, given what's happened this year, that could well be the case. I mean, this year, let's be honest, I'll just give a little bit of an intro, if you could bear with me. This year really marked the return of Drupal. I've now moved into the status of sort of a little bit of a greybeard in the print industry. I've actually been to, I think, 2008, 2012, and 2016. This Drupal felt distinctly different to all of those. I felt like it was a watershed event, really. The change wasn't just about the attendance, although that changed. The numbers were as high, but that's not what the point I'm trying to make is. But the presentation of the event, the content, and the overall narrative. Clearly, there were still some giant booths dominated by the major OEMs, and the focus has always been on what we call heavy metal, not the genre of music, unfortunately, but but of course, the huge machines that drive the print industry. Of course, there were still some of those, and rightly so, but it wasn't entirely the story. So I sort of think, in a way, the echoes of the past gave way to some of the new things, the new words and terminologies that we've started to band about. I'm not entirely sure whether we fully understand them, but I think we're getting there with things like Industry 4.0, digitalization, automation. And I really noticed this year, software, in terms of visibility, in terms of conversation, in terms of how accepting people were of the power it can give printers and it within their hands. I think it was really clear. And this shift didn't happen in isolation. For software to take that center stage, I also think several factors kind of have to align, really. I guess you've got evolving customer demand, you've got economic pressures, you've got technological advancements, intuition and user interface experience, and all of those things. And I think, let's be honest, software has become a software as a service, and many of these platforms, but even somebody like myself who's not technically literate, I can work with these things, and it's really exciting what you can do with these different platforms. So I guess in a way it was only a matter of time. And leading this charge was Gelato. I've heard of Gelato before and been aware of what Gelato is, but this is a different type of gelato. I'm going to find out more about what that means. And your proposition, the way you exhibited, the way you disrupted the narrative, the name GelatoConnect, it speaks volumes. Connect really is the operative word. I think it typifies the rise in software tools designed to be sufficiency, effectiveness, profitability. And really, those kind of things that were perhaps deemed unthinkable just a decade ago. So anyway, here we go. That's enough of my preamble and intro. This year was a turning point. Will next year be a breakthrough moment? As we approach 2025, the question looms, will 2025 be a breakthrough year for software in print? And here to help me answer that, a very patient Bobby Edmundovich. Welcome, Bobby. Here you go. Bobby, but before we get into the depth of the conversation, love to hear a bit about yourself and your background, because as I said and hinted already, you're not necessarily from the printing industry.
Marcus, thank you so much for having us here today, and thrilled to be representing Gelato. So Bobby Edmundowitz, born and raised in St. Louis. That's where I was last time we spoke last week with my mother-in-law at her place, and currently reside in Denver, Colorado when I'm not traveling to Germany in the phone booth that I am in now, having this great conversation with you. But my wife Annie, two kids, Robbie and Carter, 5 and 7. My background, I've been in software for 2 decades. I found the printing industry through Gelato, through one of the investors that invested in the company back in 2021. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be in this industry. I actually, besides this past year of working and really getting to know the industry and meeting the printers, I actually worked in my best friend's family-run business in St. Louis, Missouri, a 100-year-old printing business, working in the back, packaging, doing deliveries.
Mhm.
And I remember it was actually a year ago last week when I was getting ready to join Gelato. I joined back in January, and I was talking to him and I said, you know, tell me about this. Like, tell me about software in the industry. Tell me about what's happening. And what he shared was one massive opportunity for disruption. He felt like a lot of things were disparate, not really working well together. People were just trying to figure things out on their own. And two, you know, the printing world is amazing. Like the people that are in this are true entrepreneurs. They want to win. They're looking for ways to fend off changing times. And to me, that really stuck with me, and got me really excited about the opportunity. And a year later, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here. So Gelato, when I joined, had been around for about 15-ish years, building this technology to basically pull together a global network of printers, right? So we have 150 printers around the world, and we put software together to help take orders from first a B2C website, then eventually e-commerce websites and the creator economy and funnel those orders across the world. And what we heard consistently was that software is really good. It helps you produce more effectively, and we want to start using it. So I joined with my background in software to help join the amazing Gelato team, figure out how we take this software to market and get it out in front of printers around the world. So um, really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, Marcus, and it's excited for the conversation.
Yeah, and it's been a big year, as you said, and you've been very visible and committed with all your communication, not least at Drupa and so on. And like I said, Gelato itself had been around for a number of years, but Gelato Connect's kind of a new thing, and I'm going to get into what that means now for the printing industry. So, what do you feel before we get to that? Perhaps are the biggest challenges that you're seeing printers face today? Because you're over in Munich now, you're soon to go to Barcelona, so you're sitting down with printers all the time. What kind of things do you think are they finding most challenging, such as perhaps some of the trends out there? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean there's a number of them, right? And I think when you think about printing 10 years ago, I think the average run was about 3,000 items on a print run. It's now down to about 30, right? Things like personalization, e-commerce is really kind of drive that along with digitization. I mean, I was at a printing shop this morning, and they were doing like tens of thousands, 100,000 calendars flying through it. Everyone was unique, right? It was all specialized. In addition to that, you're seeing things like increased complexity with costs, the market related to raw materials is changing, talent shortages, trying to find the right people and bring them into the business and keep them working has been a challenge. And then buying demands. Right? I think people are looking for things that are more sustainable. I was at Shop Talk in Chicago talking to some of the biggest e-commerce companies in the world, and when they're looking to produce, they're thinking about doing it locally and doing it on demand because they want to have a more sustainable way of producing. And obviously things like SLAs with the growth of TikTok and other uh, amazing ways to buy and to purchase and work with brands. That's requiring the need for people to be able to produce at a certain level. So it's interesting.
Mm.
There's this kind of combination of things coming together. Um, when I was talking to one of my friend's dad when I saw them actually this past week, one of the things he was telling me was, Bobby, there's so much happening in the world with printing, not to mention automation, AI, all these changes that I'm telling you we're talking about now. But it's gonna create a scenario where some printers are winning and some printers are going to be challenged, right? And you're kind of seeing that play out with the times. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be in the landscape.
Yeah, so it's kind of just summarizing, you've seen some big stuff with sustainability, declining print runs, SKU complexity, which is coming, lots of orders and demand coming from different places that previously weren't necessarily coming and weren't necessarily available. And I guess this kind of change puts stress on the printer, doesn't it? Really, making money, how to kind of manage workflow, manage logistics, manage demand, keep the customer happy. Um, what opportunities are there amid these challenges then on that basis? So sustainability for one, but you also mentioned huge opportunities. What kind of macro trends are at play? You mentioned TikTok. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not really on TikTok. I'll be honest with you. I try and keep abreast of many things, but not TikTok. But these are platforms for sales as well, aren't they? And so on. So yeah,
Yeah.
what kind of opportunities are there for printers that are perhaps a bit more digitally savvy than even me?
Well, I think digital is the key operative word, right? I mean, what I was blown away by having been in software for 2 decades and coming into the printing industry. I mean, the printing industry, 900 billion, software 600 billion, right? So you think about
Mm,
how big software is and then print. But what's the interesting part of the printing industry for Gelato and for what's changing the growth is digital, right? I mean, digital is going to grow another 90 billion by 2027. That's 2 times faster than digital music, right?
mm,
So massive industry, massive growth. And what you're seeing fuel that is this creator economy and avenues like Amazon and TikTok. Um, they care about things like the creators, they care about these things like sustainability and making sure that they have good products out to their customers, right? So um, what was also interesting to me was it wasn't just kind of the creator economy that was interesting and growing when I was at this show, Shop Talk, but it was also global brands. I mean, global brands are looking for ways to do things local on demand. They care about sustainability. They care about their carbon footprint, and I think that's going to impact decisions that they make about how they get things produced and manufactured.
mm. So this is an enabler. This is in a different way, isn't it? This software is enabled platforms like you mentioned Amazon, but equally Shopify, I think another one's Etsy, are all out there, and that's where the creator gets to create their own kind of shop window in a way. Is that how you see it? And it's that entrepreneurialism or that entrepreneurial community that really adds up to a huge amount of revenue, but
Yeah.
it isn't necessarily the large brands that are kind of governing that. It's kind of individuals and smaller businesses and so on. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely seeing that on the creator side, but we're also starting to see more of these, call it 20, 30, 40 million B2C sites who they want to have things produced globally, but locally on demand. They want to have a global
Mm,
presence, but local on demand production. And they're looking for ways to be able to reach printers and reach that market as well, right? So
mm,
it's a really interesting time. The conversations that are happening are all about growth, but it's all about these macro trends as well.
mm, About being part of that, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the creator economy is really exciting. So you call them creators, and I think you call printers makers. So I quite like that. We'll get onto that in a minute. So explain, therefore, Gelato Connect then. What does Gelato Connect do for that kind of massive opportunity, but equally for the makers and for the printers? Give an explanation of the Gelato Connect, the all-in-one
Yeah. So
solution. Yeah.
so GelatoConnect, machine agnostic end-to-end solution, right? Software's designed for business users. It's not designed for programmers, although programmers can get in there and make it move a lot faster. It's click, not code, I think is the best way to describe it. But it's machine agnostic, it's scalable. It's really the first end-to-end production solution, bringing together procurement, workflow, and logistics. Um, and when it was built based off of this creator economy, micro orders, and some B2B work as well. So the way that our technology can run pre-press and positioning, the batching, the ganging, and really get work through the shop faster, It's pretty revolutionary. We're seeing some amazing customer stories based on that. Based on the roots of where it's come, it also has great connectivity to e-commerce and digital in digital forms like Shopify, TikTok, Etsy, all those things that we talked about previously.
What it does is it makes it easier for the printer really to solve some of the kind of previous pain points that would have affected their profitability and their ability and also their speed to delivery, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it, right? It's looking to get work shoot through the shop faster, giving them advantageous pricing related to supply and how they ship, and really helping them take the ownership of the technology and put it in the hands of the business users, to really run it and be more self-sufficient. So, it's been pretty amazing. This year, right? So I joined in January. We got ready to, we kind of soft launched. We were at D-Scoop. We told some people of our transition from being just a buyer of print to a provider of software. But then we really launched at Drupa, and the launch at Drupa was great. We had a couple of customers who were early on, like really helping us drive the roadmap, who then started to go live right after Drupa, and some of the results they saw were just fantastic. So it was from there going into Printing United, and then where we're at, kind of finishing the year. Now, now going through Peak. It's been a really fun ride, and it's been cool to see this kind of come to light and really have strong impact on the printers that we're working with.
How do you just curiosity more than anything? I look upon the US really as the home of software and the leader in software development and so on. What's the response like to Gelato Connect in Europe compared with the US? Are we a bit more cautious here, or
Yeah, no,
what are you seeing?
yeah, I mean, I'm seeing it firsthand. So, for us, Drupa, and by the way, Drupa, amazing event. Like I said, two decades in software. I went to like 12 Dreamforces in a row, which was Salesforce's massive 100,000 person conference. I thought I would be prepared for what Drupa was. I was not, I was not prepared. 300,000 people, 11 days, the machinery, like it was really cool to see how things were produced, and really kind of jump into the industry through an event like that.
Mm.
Um, but when I think of the growth of Connect, like yeah, it definitely started in Europe. It started with Drupa really being the first event, but then when the results of that started coming to light, I mean, we signed on some amazing printers and partners throughout the United States. We launched a news article showing that, right? I mean, and these are some of the leading printers in the world that were coming together. Oops, sorry, that's the sorry about that. That's the airport lounge.
Oh, right, okay. That's all right.
But
That's all right. That sounds
but
it makes you sound even cooler that you're actually in the airport. There you go.
yeah, well, gotta find a way to go see the team tonight at Barcelona. But long story short was, I mean, leading up into September and print at our first customer event, for Gelato Connect in Fiskebäck, Sweden. And it was great. We had some of the leading printers from around the world. And having been in software for 2 decades, what I've never seen happen is you're in an industry as big as this, with leading, potential buyers or users of your technology, and they're coming together and they're saying, "I want to figure out a way for us to work together to be more effective and win together." Right. So, like the core of what we've been doing, which is why it's been so gratifying to watch, is be a part of, is we're making technology for the printers, driven by them, and being a part of that and seeing how that's kind of panned out has been a really amazing experience.
Yeah, yeah, great. And there are some things that you're doing as well. I know that perhaps dealing with some of the previously problematic areas of software that will come onto as well in terms of efficiencies and so on, streamlining. AI is still a key word that's used a lot and that we are still coming to grips with in terms of and so on. So explain a bit about AI and automation in print. How does that work with Gelato? By the way, before you do that, remind people, gelato is actually originated in Europe, didn't it? Gelato, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Our headquarters is
Yeah,
in
yeah, European. Yeah,
yeah.
Oslo, isn't it?
Headquarters is in
Yeah,
Oslo, Norway.
yeah, yeah,
But we're a truly global company. We're 47
yeah,
nationalities against 400 employees all around the globe. So a very
yeah,
diverse
yeah.
organization.
That's cool.
But
So
yeah,
AI and automation then in print, from procurement to workflow to logistics, how does AI enable printers using Gelato? Mm,
what's interesting about automation and AI, and really the transition of what's happening with AI and software, is you're seeing software as a service transition into service as a software. So let me give you a couple of examples. When you think about procurement, right, being able to have AI enabled predictive ways to do purchasing for you or to streamline purchasing for you, it's turning the software into a service that does the job, right? When we think about AI throughout the workflow, driving pre-press and positioning, it's really helping improve the things that might have been done manually or by steps or by people coding. And on the logistics side, we're seeing it through, route selection, and address verification. So really streamlining and helping drive automation, but doing it through AI checklists, right? So what's interesting about the prevalent, what's happening with AI is that it's changing the benefit of software from just a toolkit to helping drive key functions of what you do more effectively. And as an organization, what I'll tell you is that I mean, my 2 decades of software, I've never seen an organization adopt AI as strongly, as fiercely as our team does at Gelato. From our developers and how they're leveraging it to write code and check code, from our go-to-market teams and how we're effectively deploying it. It's a driver for who we are as a business. We're constantly looking for ways to use AI to um, to really push the envelope and
mm.
accelerate.
And what it does is it helps accelerate and just sort of, like you mentioned, from coding through to the whole process. You'll use it where you can as a way to just enable yourselves as a business to become more proficient.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right.
Yeah, why wouldn't you, right? I know people are a bit nervous of AI, right? And it's like we did our conference in April, and I did an opening talk, and is AI Frankenstein's monster? It's kind of like a really exciting technology, but it has this dark side, right? And I mean, I
Yeah.
guess like anything new has, but what you're saying is utilize what it can give you and try and use it, right? And try
Yeah,
it,
you
experiment.
you
Mm,
use the best parts of it, right? I mean,
mm,
it's amazing how effective you can be if you figure out how to optimize it in your work around you. And everything that
mm.
we do in the company, and then in the technology we provide is AI driven. Like we're looking at how do we optimize everything that we provide through AI, and yeah, and the results have been really strong so far.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. So obviously this goes into increasing performance and improving performance generally. So the key thing is what customers think, isn't it? You mentioned a few of the customers, and you're seeing a lot of customers all of the time. Could you share any examples, perhaps, of some of the customers you have worked with that are perhaps gaining value and performance value from working with you, and also with improving how they did handle their software within
Yeah.
their business? Because that's not just working with Gelato; it is about improving how you operate your business, right? So if you've
Well,
got any
it's
examples, yeah.
yeah, it's
Mm,
changing it, right? I mean,
mm,
so ESP Color, digital printer, some commercial work located in the UK. And even before working with us, I mean, Simon was widely known as one of the more efficient printers and producers in his region, right? But they were able to grow volumes 20% without hiring a single additional headcount through the technology, right? So that's 16 different people that you might have hired differently, but he's able to drive that return, which also helped him double his margins in 90 days. And on the purchasing side, inventory, was able to see his inventory levels drop about 20% through AI, helping him do ordering, restocking more effectively. And when I step back and I think about like, well, what really drove that for Simon? It was the end-to-end software, right? I mean, you're basically taking 4 or 5 or 6 pieces of technology that were kind of cobbled together, trying to run the entire shop. And his view from day one was, I see Gelato as being one software for my production. And he now has his entire digital production running on GelatoConnect, and he's seen some fantastic results from it. Um, Tidy Merch, Charlie, he's an apparel decorator in Sweden. He's been able, through using GelatoConnect, um, on the procurement side, having more things in stock more frequently, was able to see revenue increase about 19% because instead of doing things in a manual way, trying to order and manage that, he had a system that could now do that and drive it for him. And he saved, I think he believed he saved about 4,000 hours a year through automation, both on the procurement and the logistics side of how they were doing shipping as well. And then Bennett Graphics, well-known printer in the US, in Atlanta, you know, one of the big things with them was they had another well-known workflow system. And when they switched the customer that they were using on that workflow system to GelatoConnect, the way our batching and positioning was able to reduce paper waste by about 40%, it led to over a six-figure savings, right? So when you think about the core functionality of how GelatoConnect was built from micro orders all the way up, the way that we batch and position was a benefit for them. They're also able to see things like as they were onboarding temp employees, it went from a 2 week average of onboarding time on the logistics side to 10 minutes, and then improved cash flow as well. So those are just a couple of examples, but what we're seeing consistently is when you deploy the technology, you're moving things through your shop faster because it's cutting out a lot of processes or systems that might have been cobbled together. And it's also helping with how the actual manufacturing of the print is done, how things are stacked, how things are moving through the shop, how it moves right into logistics. Um, and, the speed of production is really what's driving a lot of the ROI.
Mm. And you mentioned their sort of stacks, and I think simplification and making things more, giving more control to the individual. And I know one of the challenges with development of technology and the changing in business is that often we make investments that perhaps on a tactical level that make sense that year. The following year, demand changes and it's not quite the same. Then you do something else, you add something else, and you end up with all these different sort of stacks that in isolation make sense, but actually overall don't. How does this help that? How does it?
Well,
Mm,
one of the things that I took away from Drupa, just and really like understanding and learning about the software in the industry, was a lot of the technology was built either for the printer or the supplier to try to drive automation of the machine, or more clicks or more ink being leveraged. And Gelato's approach is software agnostic, easy to use, click not code system, right? So the ability to be able to use it across any machine in your plant, uh, add any product that you need to produce, um, to be able to do that and to give the business users the tools at their fingertip to be able to add new customers quickly, make changes quickly, and really drive their production is the core of it. So it gives you that flexibility. It allows you to, we talked to one company, the Oshaz brothers in Germany. I mean, they had four customers they were able to onboard in a weekend to then drive volume for peak. Had they not had the technology, they wouldn't have been able to do that. They would have missed out on revenue, right? So when you think about the speed of onboarding customers, the speed of change that you have to put in place to help drive the workflows and really the work through the shop, having a click not code user interface has proven to be beneficial to them in
mm,
those areas.
mm. Yeah, because I think in the past a lot of business owners would employ people to code or create their own software, and it would work quite well, I'm sure. But over time, that becomes quite quickly outdated and limiting, and
Well,
a
outdated
lot
and
of
hard.
work and investment, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
outdated and hard to manage, right? Like I talked to one of my friends who's a CEO of a company, and he was like, it's almost like there's like a magician and then there's a cape, and I don't know what's happening behind the cape, and that's the code being written and being managed, right? So being
Mm,
able to actually have something that's more click, not code, the business users can see it, they can understand it, they can use
mm,
it, helps
yeah.
kind of break down some of the maybe some of the technology gaps or frustrations that some of the printers may feel.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. So looking at next year, so really what if you were going to give some advice to printers to prepare for 25, what kind of things they should be thinking about, like sustainable production, perhaps how do these e-commerce platforms like TikTok and Amazon influence these trends? Is this the governing change in the industry that we're actually really in need to connect with far more? And obviously, whether that's just commercial printing, wide format printing, I don't know. Is that just confined to one area of printing, or is it all across a number of segments? Hmm.
So first off, if you're a printer listening to this, focus on peak. Got a couple weeks
Hmm.
left. And that's kind of been our focus as well, is we want to make sure that the companies that are using Gelato Connect right now are absolutely smashing their results. I mean, right before Thanksgiving, we made some improvements that were flying packages through the warehouses and through the shipping for a couple of our customers. I mean, one customer, I think they deployed 26,000 packages one day using Gelato Connect, just from the
Yeah.
speed and improvement that we were able to put together and help
Wow.
them do that. But as you're getting in and looking at Q1, it's obviously about growing, right? And there's a lot of things that we're thinking about to help with that. Like we talked about earlier, the concept of having brands get access to a front end to be able to connect into Gelato Connect customers, or giving printers the ability to add on customers and add on their creators that are coming to them directly because they want to have a direct relationship to print more effectively. Those are the things that are on our mind that we believe will help the printer as they're getting into Q1 and thinking about ways to help drive volume. When it gets to Q2, it's all about making sure we're onboarding and getting them in place to be done efficiently. So as we think about that, it's about the click not code user interface, being able to onboard customers in a matter of minutes or hours versus weeks and months. Obviously, when you're getting into Q3, you're thinking about how do I streamline and get ready for peak because it's right around the corner. So looking at how processes are being automated and further improved between procurement, workflow, and logistics is obviously a kind of a key theme as you're leading up to those last couple of months of the year. And then, next Q4, it's peak again. You're putting your head down and you're driving it, right? So for us, like it's important that we relate to the industry and where things are at. And to your questions about wide format and offset, I mean that's where Gelato Connect grew out of was digital micro orders. We're now doing all digital, all B2B, moving into wide format, moving into offset, moving into commercial work. Those are all things that we have on the roadmap and we're driving. And what's been really cool, I think, something that having been in software for 2 decades, I've never seen before, is just the speed and pace that this team is going at in terms of development. Since Drupa, I think we've launched literally a feature a day.
Mhm.
So the way that the technology is improving and being able to add things like uh, you know wide format and other printing methods is is top of mind for us.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got more and more, looking at your product roadmap, you've got more, without giving too much away, you're going to be adding more and more innovations as time goes by. Like any software business, it's the innovation doesn't stop, right? It's
That's right.
continual evolutions, improvements. Um, and obviously linking in with the fact the world's changing so rapidly and people like the people that use Amazon and the creators and so on are kind of building that demand at the top end as well. So it's kind of like a move or be moved kind of principle, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening, right? Everything's changing right in front of us, and there's an opportunity to continue to adapt and lean in and optimize it for your business.
Yeah, yeah. And you've mentioned already the click, not code principle, which I like, which means your life is easier. We've done the hard work, we've done the coding, it works. Just click and understand how to use that. So if you sort of looking in terms of leaving some thoughts with people, so will next year be the breakthrough that perhaps that we anticipate with software generally, or more specifically GelatoConnect, if there's one message you wanted to kind of leave printers really to walk away with, what would it be?
Well, I think coming up, you're going to see SLAs changing, focus on sustainability. There's going to be a ton of change that's happening in the industry, and it's a massive opportunity to lean in and to win with that change. And you know, Gelato and GelatoConnect want to be a part of that. We want to be helping lead the way for printers to be able to adapt to what's happening in the market. Do it through a partnership with a team that just wants to help them win and
Mm,
really, get ahead of this, right? I mean, you think about social shopping, right? I mean, Amazon commands like nearly 40% of the US e-commerce market. You're seeing TikTok and TikTok Shop just take off, right? The growth of the creator economy, it's all happening right in front of us, and it's dynamically changing the way that people are buying. Gen Z, the younger groups that are coming up.
mm,
Um, so the change has been happening, and we've seen that with the change of digital and the growth there. And when you're talking to some of the printers that are leaning into these things, they're leveraging technology in different ways to do it. And I think for me, like that's the one thing that I would want people to realize is that change is here. There's going to be winners and losers, and the faster you jump
mm,
on the bus, the sooner that I think it's going to be
mm.
positive.
Yeah, and you mentioned the onboarding thing. I would think with any new customer thinking about taking on something that's exciting but equally very new, and that is that support and hand holding to give them the kind of confidence going forward, because it is such a at least mentally a shift in thinking, and that actually it's if it's intuitive and all the things you mentioned, click and not code, it's potentially not as difficult as they may think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So big picture. So you mentioned a few times about sustainability. How do you see Gelato contributing to a smarter, faster, greener future for the print industry?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but some of the largest global brands are looking for local, on-demand, sustainable ways of production. And we're having conversations with them about figuring out the most effective way to facilitate that. And when you think of that dynamic shift, the EU regulations, and just the focus on wanting to be sustainable and to do things in a more local, on-demand way, um, we feel like we have an opportunity to uh, help combine that desire with some of the leading printers in the world through GelatoConnect.
Yeah, yeah, really exciting. And anybody listening who wants to connect with Bobby, we've got a poll going. I know a lot of you fulfilled and said connect with us later and so on. So don't be shy. Please just put your details in there. Failing that, an email will go out tomorrow. I will send an email out and it will have my details in it. And you can come back to me if you want to connect with Bobby as well. Um, so yeah, really, unless you have any final thoughts, Bobby, you're probably thinking, am I going to make the plane? Hope you've got plenty of time.
Plenty
Appreciate
of
you
time.
joining us. I think it's somebody like myself, and I sort of put myself in a sort of a relatively informed, but not somebody that is fully conversant with software. I think that anybody, if you think, particularly as the printing industry and business owners become a bit older, maybe more in their sort of 50s, 60s, that shift to software and that shift to thinking may be quite a daunting thing. So I think it's all of the numbers you've mentioned. I know you've done a huge amount of work with McKinsey as well in terms of underpinning those independently. Are really exciting. So it sounds like an exciting opportunity for any kind of print business, whether it's wide format, commercial print, or whatever else, or textile. So yeah, I appreciate you joining us. I hope have a fantastic trip to your next location and some great meetings. I'm looking forward to working with Gelato again with some content in the future. And if you any final thoughts before we go, Bobby?
No, so Marcus, thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak with you and your audience today. Um, we're excited and humbled to be a part of this industry, and we're super excited for next year, 2025. It's going to be a heck of a year, and Hope everybody has a great holiday season through the Christmas and New Year's holidays, and um, we'll see everybody next year.
Fantastic. And thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.